Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2. My name is Jason, and this is the Survivor difficulty summary, which is the lore-friendly version of the mod, which is meant to encapsulate all the work that's been done over the last 3.5 months to try to make the most comprehensive, the most fun version of the mod, and kind of explain some of the things that were done, why they were done, and try to focus on where this is going. So I've started this video. The last video I started in the daylight to show you guys the ultimate survivor summary. This one we're going to start at night, and the idea here is that we are going to explore the city a little bit and talk about some of the features I've added here. So the focus for this update since 9.0 is trying to create a more intense, immersive environment at night. One of the things that was kind of lacking in the earlier versions was this idea of howlers that were doing anything. So they were just kind of hanging out inside the environments and acting as cameras, so to speak. I wanted to try to make these guys much creepier and eerie inside this environment by making them similar to the volatiles so that they're crawling through this environment searching for the player. They're also investigating noises and continuing to scope out the city to try to find out where people are hiding. So the idea here is that as you are crawling through the city, you will start to encounter these guys in the wild. They will start to crawl through the environment and you will randomly run into them. I would highly encourage in the config settings to turn off your howler icons. This is the most fun way to play the game, is not knowing when you're going to run into one of these guys randomly inside the environment. Same with the volatiles. So the volatiles have also been set up and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the videos at this point or the pictures from the Discord channel, but the volatiles are now crawling through the environment. They are hunting for the players, and they are crawling up these buildings looking and searching for the player. So I've got them set up. A couple of people have requested a slow search, so they are doing the similar thing to the howlers. They are slowly crawling through this environment, and they are also trying to find the player. So I've tried to set up this system to where it's more based on stealth. So as you're crawling through this environment, I've tried to set these guys up to where they're using more of the line of sight system and the hearing system rather than proximity. So you shouldn't have to worry as much about just because you're next to one of them that they're going to spot you, but rather that if they spot you or they hear you, they'll come running. And so these guys are now moving together. So a couple of the things that I've tried to update is also the group behavior system in the game, to where once these guys find someone else that is also in this similar objective, they will try to work together to actually try to scope you out. So these guys, you should start getting smaller groups of these guys working together to try to find the player. It should be a lot of fun. So as we move through this environment, I'll go ahead and list out some of the additional features. So as featured in the Ultimate Survivor version, I also have added the mini chases to this system, or this version of the game as well, this difficulty, which is basically if you trip off a chase, then you will also end up with a mini chase system, which is designed to summon more infected, to where you'll have things like banshees and chargers and goons and demolishers come running in and also be searching for the player and attacking the player. This will also set up the system to where they'll remain inside that location as a percentage chance. So if you die inside this environment, we go down here and we bring in all of these different special infected from a chase. If you die, they will potentially stay in that location. So if you head back to that location, you have a chance of running into those banshees and goons and infected all over again. So the idea here is that as you're inside this environment, it continues to update and shift and change based on what's inside the world, and you have to make sure that you are continuing to move and not using the same pathways, or you as well could be wiped out. So you can see here we've got a night patrol PK that are running through the environment. So one of the things I tried to update is the biters should now be slowly shifting in the environment as well. So they're also set up to where they're going to be slowly moving, much less slower than some of the other special infected. For the special infected and different human AIs, they'll be running through this environment and searching. So they'll be continuing to move in convoys and that kind of thing throughout the environment. So as you're moving through, you're very likely for a human group to come running up to you if you're moving through the daylight. Now, I have tried to keep this lore based, so at night, you're less likely to have guys on the inside of the buildings, but what you will have is more guys out in the streets. And so, as you're moving through the spaces, you'll end up with more enemies outside in these night environments, but less guys on the inside. So, if you're trying to do a inside map or quest rather, it's better to try to set that up at nighttime than try to attempt that in the day. I have continued to support that idea that you have special infected inside the interiors during the day, so the daytime should be the most challenging for going inside. Along with that, I have also set up, so you may have, if you've watched the Ultimate Survivor version, I've also set up in Survivor and Casual Survivor the new zombies. So there's a couple of new zombie types that I have inside the environment. Rather, they're visual updates to a couple of the different systems. So all the PK are now visually represented as heavy. They have lots of armor and are kind of armed to the teeth kind of thing, while the zombies themselves and the infected, I've tried to update their visuals to where you do have a large number of civilian style zombies, but you also have this concept of PK and renegade zombies as well. So one of the things I noticed is that you had a large number of warriors of different groups in here, but you did not have an accurate representation of what they would look like if they died. Along with that is the Colonel's group as well. So I've tried to also outfit some of these zombies with the Colonel's gear as well. So you should start to see a little bit more of the Fallen inside this concept for all three versions of the mod. So additionally, I've also set up a collider system for these guys. As they're moving throughout the environment, I was noticing that they would get stuck on each other pretty badly. And so what I tried to do is set this up to where as they collide with each other and they move throughout the environment, they'll actually move each other out of the way. That's definitely not something that they would do on the default, because they're not really meant to move in the default settings of the game. So that will come in especially handy with things like chargers and with the goons and that kind of thing, so that they actually get these guys moving so that they can get to the player. So I'm going to go ahead and jump down and we'll start a couple of these mini chases so that we can continue to talk about some of the features in here. So I will be adding the change log as well from the pre-release. That list got very, very long. So expect a good amount of updates in the system, and I look forward to talking to you guys about updates throughout the system. But I wanted to focus primarily on trying to bring as much intensity as possible. So you can see this is the Survivor version. Basically, I did not even get a chance to really get away from that group. What I've set up with those mini chases, as I've described before, is a system that will randomly spawn different infected. Each one of these different infected have a different type of kind of attack. So, like for example, with the Banshees, they'll go in there and basically tackle the player while doing very small amounts of damage. With those other ones like the Goon and Volatiles, they're heavy hitters, so if they get in close, they'll actually do a good amount of damage to the player. So you want to keep moving and try to keep those guys back. Same with the Demolisher; they will continue continuously charge and knock the player around. And so the idea is that I wanted to try to avoid this idea of the player can just kind of hang out after a chase has been started, or rather they need to get moving. And as more screamers or howlers start to come up to the place where the chase has started, you'll get more special types of zombies will start to spawn in. So you can see we've got actually a couple of spitters that have spawned into this use case. So it becomes more challenging when you're trying to climb up the buildings and that kind of thing if you have these guys constantly spitting in. Also, when you start to get things like the demolishers in, you should start to see a large number of rocks flung at you and other things to help make it more challenging for you to just escape to the groups. So here's a couple of the new types of zombies. As you can see here, we have the renegades and the PK represented. So we have a couple of undead that are now representing the different types of down soldiers. So you'll have a couple of the slow movers with the different mass systems. So I put a couple of different variants in there, and then also you'll have the PK as well. So they've got their fast mover types, and then they've also got their regular moving zombies. So things like the spitters and banshees and all the special infected will also move throughout the environment, and this should help keep the world shifting and moving. And then also, as I mentioned before, the biters will slowly start their progress across the city as well. So I'm going to go ahead and try one more time and see if we can get a couple of new reactions in here. Let's bridge and see what happens. And as a couple of people have mentioned before, so kind of this idea with the howlers, so there you saw one run after me, is that with the howlers, before they just kind of stood still, they didn't actually pursue the player. I try to make them actually chase the player a little bit, and this is kind of based on the environment, so they'll sometimes pursue, and then sometimes they just kind of hang out and scream at the player. So the more you hang out in that area, the more likely you are to have to deal with these guys. But basically the idea is, as someone has requested earlier, kind of the concept here is that they continuously start to scream as you are still in the environment, and they will actually call down additional zombies and infected the longer you hang out in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the daytime and show you guys some of the human updates. So some of the configuration updates did not get done today due to the large amount of time put into the human AI. So I really wanted to focus on trying to get this human AI as natural as possible. It's kind of been an ongoing thing for a while now of trying to see how I can balance the game with these AI updates that I've been doing. So let me show you guys some of the updated changes. So basically what I've done is a new approach to the bows with these guys. So instead of so basically the overall summary of the human AI is that they are no longer assigned a role at the start. Instead, they are given weapons. Based on their weapons and probability, they then assume that role based on the weapons they've been provided. So the weapons they are getting spawned with are all based on a probability system that says you guys need these weapons, here's these weapons, and then behave in these ways once you have those weapons. So here you can see we had a patrol of 2 bowmen and 2 melee. Basically, they will try to hold off a larger group like this, and they should do a pretty good job of moving throughout the space. And kind of the idea that I've tried to set up for these guys is that as they continue to fight, noise brings down more enemies. And so you'll often have an encounter where PK are fighting zombies, and then all of a sudden you'll have a group of renegades or bandits come up, which will result in a larger battle between bandits, renegades, and zombies. And so what I've tried to set up, and as I've mentioned in the other video, is I've tried to take the approach similar to Halo 1, where you had those Marines out in the environment where they were constantly under attack by the Covenant, and you had this really cool idea of, you know, you could go out there and potentially save those Marines. So you could actually get them inside your Humvee and continue to continue the game with those Marines in tow. Well, I've tried to take a similar approach to where they, once they're running through the environment, they will continue to be attacked by zombies. If you take the time to save them, then you have a higher potential for building a larger force. So if you're trying to play a more lore-based game where you want to go clear the streets kind of thing, then it would be very easy for you to go with these remaining troops and continue to move throughout the environment and protect those guys. So what this will result in is you should end up with a pretty large size of PK working together, and they could also be wiped out by bandits. So you see here we have bandits running up on the player and on that PK, and he'll continue to try to fight on your side, and then also these bandits may win and take him out. So I've also tried to update the human AI for their climbing system as well. So basically they will now try to stay as realistic as possible. Some of those spaces in between those buildings and things weren't quite designed for AI to climb on. So what I've had to do is try to find a balance to where these guys can shift around the environment and continue to climb on the different ledges and that kind of thing. But essentially he's trying to line up a shot with this bandit, and as you can see there, he was successful, so he was able to take those guys out. And so he'll continue to move around the world, and I have set up some random climbing for these guys as well. So they will start to kind of climb up buildings and move around the environment. And I actually have seen a couple of cases where I got these really cool like movement through the environments. I've seen several of them climbing on buildings that have been down on the ground, and then all of a sudden I've looked up and seen somebody go over a ledge kind of thing. I've also had a couple fall down in front of me as well, so it's been kind of interesting. It is still glitchy. I've tried to work on their ability to detect ledges, so they should not be falling off the buildings quite as bad as they were before. They should be able to actually climb in that environment and feel pretty safe about doing so. I've got a human update video that I put out that kind of shows how fluid they can move across the environment now. And so it really comes down to like how much time you spend on the ground and what you look for inside this environment. I found several different interactions with the different groups that is all randomly spawned that I can't ever reproduce. But there's been a couple of times that I've had some really great interactions with these NPCs that felt very natural inside the environment. And kind of the goal here is that if you don't have a group to play co-op with, that you still have these NPCs that will act similar to the humans and give you kind of a side objective of constantly being watching out for these bandits, but then also working to try to save the good guys inside this kind of environment kind of thing. So additionally to these guys, I've also tried to do some weapon balancing. So for the survivors, they also do not have the terrible weapons that they usually have. Instead, I've tried to hook them up with some better weapons to defend themselves. Also, additionally, I've tried to balance the health inside the game a little bit better with the zombies. So before, a couple of people have mentioned that the zombie scaling health was a little weird, that they would just kind of constantly be scaling in their health. And so the idea here is I wanted to try to hear you guys out and try to set those leveling systems, and also set all that up with figs, but also try to set these zombies to where they're at a reasonable level of difficulty and health, so that the NPCs inside the environment have a better chance of survival. So you will have an easier time taking out zombies, but there'll be more of them based on the density that you're setting. So kind of the idea is that you'll still get a very large amount of zombies inside the environment. So it's still dangerous. It's just that they may be easier to take down in waves. So at least you can continue to fight them off in different waves. So another thing that I've set up in here is that before there was a retreat system in the game where they would basically go retreat off into the distance. Now based on their health, they'll actually head up into the buildings and up on the higher levels. The idea here is that they will try to push you down. So as you try to get up to them, they'll try to ward you off. And the idea is that they're kind of last standing in. So they'll continue to try to do a last stand approach to survival and continue to fight up high. But they're all pretty weak at this point, and so they'll just try to stop you the best they can before they get wiped out. So you should end up with groups that are kind of treed, if you will, or up higher, that their health is low. And I'm still trying to write a more creative system for this to where they go up high, and I got sidetracked by trying to look into, can I allow them to heal and use health kits and that kind of thing. And when I realized that that was not as straightforward, basically what I did is I left it with, they go up high, they continue to wait, and then eventually they do get overcome. But you can clear the ground kind of thing and try to clear that out. Occasionally I still get groups like this one that it's inside the environment that these guys are just not responding. This is actually a glitch, so this is part of the vanilla glitch that I think this is part of a military convoy glitch that I've seen. But I do occasionally get these. If you guys get these guys that they just can't be attacked or messed with, that's a vanilla glitch. Basically all I can do is try to remove the content, and I have turned on some content back into the game that was removed. If you explore enough, I'm sure you'll see some of the extra hangmen, and they've got some signs up that are basically saying, like, you know, you break the rules and you die kind of thing. It's a lot darker than the original game, and so I was trying to bring kind of a darker feel through the mod and continue to set that up. So here's an example of actually both zombies. So these are our new renegade zombies. The one they had in there before was a little outdated, so he was wearing armor that you could kind of tell that he was a renegade by the red, but it wasn't very unique, and so I did go in here and set up these guys with a better armor set that matches the bandits that you find in real life, or not real life, throughout the world. Okay guys, I am really looking forward to hearing your guys' feedback. Thank you so much for continuing to support the mod. As you're exploring this world, continue to let me know what you're encountering. Basically, the quick summary here for Survivor is that this is how the game is meant to be played. If you are lore-based, if you're just looking for a challenge that is also based around the quests and trying to keep some of that lore in there along with this work, I really tried to refocus some of my efforts here to expand the mod to be as friendly as possible to as many people as possible. So it wasn't just about the difficulty, it was also about a lot of the unique interactions that comes from this new UI or AI system. So please let me know your feedback. If this version is too difficult for you, if you don't like some of the difficulty settings that I have, like the mini chases and that kind of thing, you can head over and get the casual survivor version of the mod, which is basically the same thing. It just has a couple of systems turned off, including things like turning down volatiles and that kind of thing, to make the game just overall feel a little bit easier to counter inside this game. Alright guys, thank you so much. I look forward to your feedback, and thank you again. My name is Jason, and this is Am Legion Reborn 1.0 for Dying Light 2. Thanks guys.